You're going to meet a local lady who's writing a book about what it's like in midlife for women, particularly around menopause, after menopause. But she does need some help with her research, though, and wants to hear from you. So you'll find out about that, about the book, and why this lady needs your help after this. I know you recognise it. A classic from Kumar Sanu. Ek Ladki Ko Dekha. On BBC Radio Nottingham. Beautiful. That's Ek Ladki Ko Dekha by Kumar Sanu.
BBC Radio Nottingham.
You know, at least once in your life there's that feeling of just not being good enough at whatever you do. You slog every day to make everyone happy, your husband, your children, your parents, but not yourself. Why is it that when you get to a certain age, you've got everything that you've worked for, like marriage, your kids, the career, but it's still not enough to make you truly happy? You know what I mean? It just feels like something isn't right. Maybe that feeling is anger or a sense of being wronged, especially for women in South Asian communities. It's a particularly complex topic that Lina Mookerjee is keen to explore in her new book, Starting in the Middle, which she's in the process of writing at the moment, actually, and joins you now on BBC Radio Nottingham. So, Lina, what's your experience of being wronged?
Well, Hansa, that's a very direct question, and I will be directly back with you. In a nutshell, I was the unwanted child. I was born to parents who were affected by partition, were very traumatised, although you wouldn't have known. They had 2 girls, and they wanted a son. And as you very rightly said, you know, we face lots of expectations in the Asian community, and especially having a son. So they wanted a son to reconnect with their sense of dignity and have some pride, but then I came along. And sadly, I was a big disappointment. I was cared for, but I suffered the consequences of that rejection. And to me, that was my sense of being wronged. I didn't have a chance.
Wow. So how does something like that affect you later on in life?
Okay. It affected me on many levels, and the awareness didn't start to kick in until I was about 26. So up until that point, I tried to be the son. I chose the hardest engineering degree and came to the best place at the time, which was Trent Poly, as was. So I did an electrical engineering degree. I got one of the toughest jobs in industry. I worked in industry for 10 years. All men, proved myself. I had made it at 25, so I had my house, my own car, company car, very good salary and a management position, all the clothes you could want. Desperately unhappy. So relationally, I was so empty inside. And there's a classic management saying by Stephen Covey, and he talks about the ladder being on a building. You climb that ladder and you realise your ladder's leaning against the wrong building. And what had been defined as success within the Asian community more was not for me. So it's affected many of my decisions, my sense of myself, my sense of self-value, feeling shamed, feeling very angry and having no way to express that anger, and frankly, you know, a sense of non-existence. That has been my angst.
Wow. So at what point did you recognise all of this and think something needs to change?
Yes, there were 2 major points, Hansa. One in 1997 when I had a major breakdown. So I was at the pinnacle of my career, but the other side was I felt so rubbish. I felt shamed because I had failed. I hadn't reached the dizzy heights of management. A little bit naive because there was a glass ceiling going off at the time, but I didn't know that because I thought it was me. So that process started a self-inquiry. I was determined to find out what was wrong with me. I was being told there was something wrong with me. The whole of the community pointed to me as being at fault, that I had a mental health problem, that I was going a bit la-la, where it was taken to a number of different gurus, and I was having quite a few interesting experiences at the time in terms of spirituality, and they said, no, that can't possibly happening to you. You're a girl, so you must be going mad. Okay? The next awakening happened in 2014. A lot had happened since 1997 to 2014, when I felt the most intense rage. Rage beyond anything that there was a reason for, because again, to the world, I had it all. I was very successful, husband, house, business, all that. But the rage was so intense, I was scared of my own anger, that I could damage and destroy everything that I had built. That's when I knew I was desperately unhappy and I needed to take responsibility, and I was older. So I decided to, and I've spent 2 years in intensive therapy with an extremely sensitive person who helped me. That's why I'm here today.
Wow. And so now you're writing about it?
I certainly am, because I come with my hat, both as an experiencer of meeting the dark night of the soul, as I'll coin it, but also as a professional therapist. And I work with many, many women, and very, very inspired by the stories I hear from my work. And actually, it doesn't stop there. It's what's known as growth and post-traumatic growth that comes from post-traumatic stress disorder. That is the core of my work. How do we turn adversity into opportunity? Where do you dig deep and actually make sense of a life that's worth living, not defined by somebody else, but by yourself? And that's the greatest power. You can connect with your personal power, your personal agency, and you live the life according to the values that are core to you. And that's what the last 20 years have been for me.
Wow. Seems like a lot to get into one book, that does. The story and everything.
Well,
so tell me about the book then.
Okay. Well, the primary reason I'm writing it, Hansa, is because of the experience of oppression. Not only of my own oppression, but also because as an Indian woman, that I faced a different set of dynamics on top of the ones of being a woman. But I'm also inspired by my work as a therapist and being a carer to my deaf-blind husband, who's Richard. And I'm looking at how suppression, oppression affects the nervous system, how it affects the way we process, how that then impacts our ability to make decisions, use our judgment, decide on what we want to do or not, and if we don't, what happens, and how does that affect our levels of esteem, our self-value, and of course sense of self. So I'm an engineer by profession, so I look at systems and I'm interested in how the brain and nervous function, but also the impact of emotions that aren't, let alone recognised, let alone expressed. So that's the core of my work.
Wow.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating.
So it's using cutting-edge neuroscience awareness with the ancient wisdom of yoga, because yoga is all about being integrated and using the faculties of self, and actually the modern science now.
Yeah. Wow. So how can other women help with your research for this book?
Ooh, well, yes, please. And I am sending out this heartfelt request to all those women who feel that they've been wronged and experienced anger in life. And you can go to my website. Can I mention that, Hansa?
Of course you can.
And that's at www.linaonline.net, and you will see the information about the book and also the request for help, because I'm very curious as to how unprocessed anger affects the brain and how this can go on to affect our self-esteem and confidence in terms of, I said, saying no. And you can write your story. You can then express how you felt anger, how you dealt with it. Did your strategy work? And if so, how? And if it didn't, why not?
Okay, so this is a very personal thing that you're asking of these women. You know, what makes you think anyone will want to sort of tell you their story? And I mean that with all the respect, you know, because it's a personal thing that you're asking of these women who are strangers to you at the moment.
Absolutely. And actually, Hansa, you would be surprised by how many stories I have heard in department stores, I won't name the supermarkets I've been in recently, by just mentioning the book and anger, and instantly saying, oh, that's happened to me, can I tell you my story? I was at an event last week, a business event, and I was simply sharing about the book. Many people I didn't know. Whoa, there was a swarm of about 20 people around me by the end saying, can I tell you mine, can I tell you mine? Because it affects women. And actually, we don't have arenas anymore where women come together to talk. That's what we used to do in the old days, where the elders would be there, the young ones would be there, there'd be a sharing of knowledge. This is the equivalent, but virtually.
There you have it.
And the key thing is you can be anonymous. You don't have to disclose your name, simply your story, and more importantly, what you did about it.
Fantastic. So you heard there, that's Lina. Lina, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you,
The website
Hassan.
one more time, so it's
www.linaonline.net.
absolutely brilliant. So that's Lina Mookerjee, who is writing a book called Starting in the Middle, and she wants to hear from you and your stories of anger and being wronged. And that's a website there for you, Lina Mookerjee.